Yo, what's up, guys? Today's topic is going to go ahead and be on getting through it sober. Right? Does it sound, for me, I should say, it didn't ever sound like a fun topic. I got to start by saying I know what it's like to not understand your emotions and to feel emotions that you just didn't know how to work through. It was one of my biggest struggles and one of my biggest drivers to using. I didn't understand my emotions that I was feeling. I didn't comprehend them. So I would just use so I could feel something. Using a substance became my way of defaulting my emotions. If I didn't like the way that I felt, then I would use. If I was dealing with a situation that just seemed so large that I couldn't handle it, I would use. So I know what it's like to have your emotions be a driver to your addiction. Not a good thing, but I just want to make sure that you guys are aware that that's something that can go ahead and happen. The problem with that, and what a lot of people don't seem to understand, and for me, it took me a while to get, was that by using when I was having to deal with emotions or circumstances that I wasn't comfortable with, I was adding on to what we'll call a workload. The first part of the workload is, just these emotions that we all have that we have to work through. Again, I started using substances when I was about 14 years old. At that time frame, your neurological brain set isn't completely developed. So part of the problem that I had is that every 14-year-old, 15-year-old has to go through these emotions that they start learning. It's called maturity. That's when you start going through your adolescent stages and you start feeling things that are different. Well, for me, I'd always just use just to go ahead and not have to feel those. So on top of the workload that everybody has to deal with, I also had this workload of processing through, am I just high? Am I feeling this way because I'm high? Or am I masking my emotions with just a substance? Most of the time it was just me masking my emotions with the substance. So my workload would double. Not only did I have to deal with the emotions that everybody else had to deal with, but I also had to deal with this developing addiction that I was creating. So I know what it's like to be there. I know what it's like to have your brain just feel so mixed up that you don't know what's real, what's not real. It's part of the active addiction lifestyle, and that's part of the unmanageable lifestyle that everybody talks about that usually brings us to knowing that we're an addict. I also know what it's like in sobriety to go ahead and have to deal with emotions, have to deal with thoughts. Those aren't any type of fun, I won't lie to you. We've had instances where I've had to deal with death now. I've had instances where I've had to go ahead and deal with frustrations, heartbreak. There's all kinds of new emotions that I've had to now work through in my sobriety time that they're not easy, they're not fun to deal with, but it's life, it's what we all have to deal with. Positive note on that, because again, they're not fun, they're not easy, even when you're sober or clean, but I didn't have that second part of the workload to have to go through. I recently had an instance where I didn't like my emotions and they're pretty large, so I wanted to go ahead and just grab a bottle because I wasn't going to go use a needle anymore. Right now my trigger is usually alcohol, so I stay away from it as much as possible. But in this specific circumstance, I wanted to drink. I didn't like my emotions. I didn't like the way I was feeling. So I wanted to just go grab a bottle, conk out, drink until I passed out, and I said I'll figure it out later. But I had to remember instances that I have done that. And I had to remember that not only did I wake up feeling like shit, because I'm 30 years old now and I've damaged my body so that hangovers are no longer just, pop up and go. My hangovers are a good 15, 16 hours of having to deal with my body and my mind and coming out of the fog. So I had to remind myself, Nico, you're gonna have to give up another 15, 16 hours of that just before your mind starts to come back, if you're okay with, if you can get it back together. And then you're gonna also have to deal with these emotions. So why take the detour? Why not just go ahead and get through it clean? Why not just take the time, recognize that yes, you have been triggered to go use, but getting through it clean is going to be a lot easier. I had to remind myself of situations that it was easier and that I was glad I was not using, because it would have been 10 times harder to work through it. What I'd like to express to you guys is that, yes, I know life is going to be troublesome. Yes, I know life is going to be hard. But if you got an easy life, I want to check to see what you're doing. Guarantee you it's not as easy as you think, or you have blinded yourself to some things that are probably going to have to pop up down the road. Life can be very joyous as well, guys, but even those joy times don't need to be amplified by substances. What I like to express is that you can get through it clean, and getting through it clean and sober, you get a lot more out of it. You get to actually feel joy and happiness without the downfall of a come down, whether that's from a substance, drugs, or a hangover, alcohol, or whatever it might be that you're using to go ahead and amplify your joy or happiness. Same thing goes for being sad, being fearful, having those type of emotions. If you don't want to dampen them and you don't want to weigh them down even more with the added on use of whatever substance is your choice. Getting through it clean, guys, on either spectrum is a lot more beneficial. It's a lot more healthy, and in all reality, it lasts a whole lot longer. Whatever you're having to deal with, whatever your situation is, again, don't try to amplify it or don't try to bring it down by using a substance. I know what it's like on both ends. And I can tell you from personal experience that getting through things clean now, it's a lot easier. I don't want to say it's a lot more fun, but I can remember a lot more. I know how to process my emotions quicker. I know how to actually enjoy joy and happiness now, because they're not just lifted up by some sort of substance. Now, whatever you guys choose to do, listen or not, that's your choice. But now you're aware that getting through it clean is going to go ahead and be your best bet. Just like what I had to recognize, that having no halo, that's my best bet too.